Well folks, I've got myself a new setup, and some just might say that I'm overcompensating. But it is a proper setup, and it's to mark the celebration of my 300th video on Westysangling. And we're down here on the Wales coastline to do some shore fishing. So I'm going to quickly talk you through my setup for today's session. I'm going to talk to you about the rods that I've gone for, the reels that I've gone for, and some of the rigs that we'll be using today. I'll talk you through the rigs and stuff like that as we're doing them. But to start off with, I'm going to talk to you about the rods and reels. So I wanted something that's going to last me. Obviously, I'm a full-time fishing YouTuber now. Obviously the website takes up 90% of my time and fishing probably 10% of my time, but I wanted a proper setup. So I've gone for a full Penn setup. I've gone for a pair of Penn Tidal XR 390 rods, and I've gone for a pair of Surf Blaster reels. I think they're a Penn Surf Blaster 3, and I've loaded them with 18-pound Daiwa sensor mainline, and they've got a 60-pound shock leader on. I've recycled my river fishing pod, which is doing absolutely brilliantly for this setup. So that's the base of the setup. I've gone for a 13-foot rod. Now obviously they do longer sea fishing rods and they do shorter sea fishing rods, but I think 13 foot is going to give me my best chance at doing some really good casts, because it's kind of bridging the gap between my coarse fishing setup and the sea fishing world. I think I'm going to get much better distance myself off a 13 foot coming from the coarse fishing world than I am with something longer like a 14 or 15 foot rod where you've got to do special casts to obviously get a lead out. I've got various different types of leads with me, which I'll talk you through. I don't know anything about anything that I'm doing today, folks. So I am a complete newbie, complete beginner. I've come down here at low water when the tide is going out, and I'm actually going to have to move myself further forward here so I can get a better cast on where I am. As I said, I'm down here on the Welsh coastline, giving it a go because I saw this mark and I thought it looked really good. As we go out here, there's less and less rocks, and then moving further out, it looks like there's a bit of a sandbar and there's loads of birds topping there all over the water, so it's great signs. So all I need to do is put this leader through the rod rings. I'm going to tie on some pre-made rigs that I've bought. So I've got everything down here in my tackle and bait mate. Now I'm obviously rushing through all this, folks, because it's going to be dark in about an hour, and also the tide is going to start coming back in at about 5:30. I'm going to be really cautious today with the tides because I'm not familiar with how fast the tides come back in. So I'm going to take safety precautions and I'm going to move back well in advance of when I need to, so that I'm not getting myself caught out. But what have I brought with me in my sea fishing bag? Well, I've got a load of rigs and bits and pieces here. I'm going with pre-tied rigs because what I wanted to do to start off with is use pre-tied so I can get to grips with the setups, so I can tie them and replicate them myself at home. So I'm going to start off with probably a 2-hook flatfish rig. You won't just catch flatfish on this, we'd be in with a chance of anything. I'm hoping for potentially a dogfish. If I catch a dogfish today, I'm going to be over the moon. We just need to catch anything today so we can call today's first sea fishing session from the shore a success. And I've also got some pulley rigs with some slightly bigger hooks. So the bait for today's session, just what I could get from the supermarket, folks, honestly. I've got some kippers. Obviously we'll be cutting segments of these off. I managed to order some of these online, which is squid and black lugworm. Now, ideally, I would have liked some lugworm or ragworm for today's session, but I haven't been able to source any, so we're going to have to go with these. These have thawed out, they've been frozen. I've got some squid and I've got some mackerel fillets. So the baits couldn't be any simpler. I'm going to save these for the best fishing time, which is when the tide is going to be coming back in. So I'm going to save my best baits till then, and then in the meantime I'll probably try strips of mackerel and squid. I've got a chopping board with me so I can cut them up. So everything that I need for today, towels, absolutely everything. I'm going to be fishing with mono today because this beach is full of boulders, it's really snaggy, and mono has the best abrasion resistance. Obviously braid's really thin and it's no good for this type of environment, but you can get a really long cast on. So I believe that if you're fishing over snags, mono's best, and if you're fishing on a smooth ground, sandy ground, and you want to be going with braid so you can get a good old whack of a cast on. And I've got some extra shock leader and stuff like that in case we get snagged up. Today is going to be mostly about trying to save the blank and practicing my casting and things like that. I'm really excited. Like I said, it's a bit of a celebration as well and something different for my 300th video on the channel. So let's get into it, folks. I'll show you some of the processing, finding the spot and stuff like that after this intro. Then we'll get back into the fishing. I'll have these rods threaded up with the leader and hopefully have a couple of rigs on. Let's get into it. Shattered. Still getting over that COVID as well. Absolutely knocked it out of me. So it's about 2 hours until low tide. I've come for a look down now so I can obviously see what the substrate's like going all the way out, because this is what I'm essentially going to be casting onto when the tide starts coming back in. So I need to find like a clear spot, a clear run between all these boulders. But I've seen a fishing trawler go past, so that's a promising sign. So there's fish moving about out there, or they think there is anyway. So there's plenty of seabirds moving about everywhere. So all these things are promising signs. For those of you that are following the channel, you'll have watched the lure fishing video where I came down here and I explored points along this coastline that I fancied fishing. And while this is a really rocky mark, I fancied it. All this coastline is really rocky, all the way out, all the way down the coast over there. Obviously it's really private, really sheltered, and it is blowing a gale today, so I'm happy about that. I can take refuge a little bit away from the rocks, behind the boulders, out the way of the wind and the elements, because it's due to put a bit of rain down as well. So I'm looking for things that fish could be feeding on. Like I said, I'm looking at the bottom to see where I want to be casting, and here looks like a great spot. I've picked a marker on the hillside behind me so I can line myself up with that spot. Be nice to find a couple of these that were ready to peel, but he's really hard. Little crabs. He's going for me. It's only got one pincer though, the boy. Not sure what type of crab he is. I've got a coastal species guide at home, so I'll look up what kind of crab he is, but there he goes. Loads of little rock pools around here. There's going to be loads of those crabs underneath all these stones, and that's obviously what fish are feeding on. So we've literally just had a storm, which is obviously meant to stir everything up on the bottom, and that can really bring fish on the feed, or so I'm told. I haven't got a clue when it comes to... Whoa! I haven't got a clue when it comes to tides or anything like that, so I'm just going to have to learn as I go. At the end of the day, you've got to be in it to win it. Every mark fishes differently, every spot fishes differently. Unless you're a local, you obviously don't know that, so you just got to try it. I've got a list of probably like 6 or 7 places that I want to go and try, and with every session I'll get more and more experience. I'm a fast learner, so it's going to be an exciting journey. It's a tough, definitely a tough journey and a steep learning curve, sea fishing. There's so many factors to take into account, a hell of a lot more than there is with freshwater fishing anyway. What a beautiful spot. Doesn't even matter if I catch, does it? I'm hoping that it's still going to be an interesting video for everybody. So with this being video number 300 on the channel, whilst trying not to fall in these rock pools here, I thought I'd talk a little bit about the channel and where I see it going. So it's my goal to be one of the best all-round anglers out there, and being an all-round angler is tough. For one, you need a lot of gear. So my garage is absolutely ram full of fishing gear, folks. I've just had a big clear out of whatever I don't need, and I've tried to minimize that gear as much as possible. But it is difficult, and it's a steep learning curve to be good at all different types of fishing. Now, certain elements of angling skill are transferable. Obviously, I started off when I was younger. on normal commercials, coarse fishing. We've done more trout fishing this year. I plan on doing more lure fishing on the channel this winter, and obviously we're at the very start of my sea fishing journey. I feel like I'm very confident on rivers now, so that's a positive. But there's something for everybody on WestysAngling, and like I said, it's a journey that you guys can follow along with. Yeah, there's going to be lots of blanks involved. I'm not scared of posting blanks on the channel. I'll always try and keep the videos entertaining, even if we aren't catching any fish. I'll show you the wildlife, what's around us. And what I'm trying to preach about fishing on the channel is it's not always about catching fish. You don't have to show up to a venue and be ripping a fish in every 2 seconds to enjoy it. I, in fact, think that's counterproductive to enjoying fishing. Try and take in what's around you and try and enjoy what you're doing. And there's more to fishing for me than there is for you guys, because I've got to do all this filming and I've got to think about more things to bring, and that to me actually it can be quite stressful. I get quite anxious about going to a new place and what I'll need to take with me and sorting all the stuff out, doing all the research behind it. A lot goes into these videos, more than what you probably see when you're watching them or what you think about when you're watching them. There's hours and hours and hours of research that goes in behind them, and obviously researching all the equipment that I need, buying all the equipment that I need. There's definitely no money in YouTube, so the people that you're watching on YouTube, they're doing it for the love of it. They're doing it to help people, and that's something to take into account when you're watching people's videos. Be positive, comment positive things, because they're out there, they're trying for you, and they really aren't making any money doing it. So yeah, I just want to bring you along on this journey to be one of the best all-round anglers out there. And it's going to take time, as I've said, it's going to take blanks, but we'll get there in the end. It might take me years, but I'm glad to bring you along on the journey, and hopefully you guys get something out of that journey as well. Right folks, I'm pretty confident on where I'm going to fish, so let's get back into the video. Great big sandbar there. Further past that, there's like kelp and more rocks. We'll see what it looks like when the tide's all the way out. So obviously one of the best fishing baits going is crabs that are starting to grow. And what happens is when crabs grow, they lose the shells, or they grow out of the shells, and then whatever's underneath is very, very soft. And fish absolutely love crabs when they're in that state. One of the best fishing baits going, but they're bloody expensive, like really, really expensive. Even more expensive than ragworm. Obviously you can dig your own, but on a rocky beach like this, you'd struggle. And the chance of finding a peeler crab, I think, a bit fairly low. I love looking at all the sea creatures. Obviously my degree is in wildlife conservation and zoo biology, so I'm in my element here folks. I could just spend all day looking about these rock pools and stuff at what I'm finding. I know what a lot of the species are and stuff, but I'm not 100% well up on it all. Periwinkles on the rocks, but absolutely covered in seaweed and kelp. Hey, got a ragworm. I found one. That's one. That's one ragworm. Should have brought a spade or something folks. Oh well, I know for next time. Could have dug some. Damn it. Obviously folks, if you're moving rocks about on the beach like this, make sure you always put them back in the same spot. You know, we should have brought a spade now. I know for next time to bring a little trail. Look at this, little yellow snail. Right, I'm getting distracted. I've just found a dogfish carcass there, so there's definitely dogfish here. That's a good sign. Well, not good for the dogfish, but good for me. One rod threaded up, checking through all the eyes. I've probably got a little bit too much leader material on there. So when it comes to leader material, they say have a rod length out, obviously, and then 3-4 turns on the reel. So that's exactly what I've done. Been researching this all week, and I've just got elastic bands here over the leader material, and obviously enough on there that if I need to, I can cut some off. Absolutely mint, these rods. Really happy with them so far. Tide is still going out for another hour. This is a great little spot to be casting onto. Obviously I already found a dead dogfish here. Sandy bottom. And then moving further back, obviously you've got the rocky bottom. So you've got both environments there for different types of fish. Obviously the flatfish will be on all this, and the doggies and some of the other species will prefer the rocky terrain. It's just a different way of thinking about things, but I think here, close to the headland, just seems like a good spot to me. And it's pretty safe as well. You can move back fairly quickly here. If the tide comes in like it's gone out, it's nice and progressive, so it's safe, but there's rocks in front of me there anyway, so they'll fill up before this bay fills up. I need to expect that I'll probably lose tackle, which is fine. I've got spur leads and stuff, but obviously nobody likes losing tackle, do they? But I've spent a lot of money on today's session already, probably 30 quid in bait, 20 quid in fuel, and about probably 650 quid for the rod and reel setup and all the extras that I've got. So all the rigs, all the leads and the bits and pieces. So yeah, it's not been a cheap endeavour, but definitely worth it. A high quality setup. If I catch a decent fish today, am I going to keep it? I have researched how to dispatch a fish and also clean it, but whether I'll do it or not is another story. I'll see. I'll make the decision at the time, but I've always been a catch and release angler. But it's a little bit different when you sea fishing. You know, if I got a nice cod or something like that. Now I know that it's probably a very slim chance of getting something like that. So I've got a bait loader there, that's essential. And I've also got some bait elastic. As I've said, I'm probably going to have one flatfish rig out and then a bigger rig for maybe like a dogfish or something like that, but it's not saying that you won't catch other things on the bigger rigs. I mean, when I say bigger, not massive, but one up, one down rig, that's for flatfish. Those hooks look absolutely massive to me as a freshwater angler. Obviously, I'll show you when I've got it on, but the pulley system works to lift the lead up and out of the way. Right, let's put a pulley rig on first, and then I'll decide what weight of lead to use. Got a decent sized metal disgorger there as well. Obviously your lead clips onto that, so obviously when you hook a fish, this will slide all the way up to where your lead is, and it'll pull it out of the way all the way up here, so you can get up and over all the rocks. But this looks like the best rig, I reckon, for this terrain. And there's two hooks that you put in the same bait, I think, like that. That's what I think happens anyway. Right, I'm going to tie this onto the leader, and we'll decide what we're putting on the other one, and tie this on with a uni knot. Let's do 6 turns. So again, that's the rig that I'm using on this first rod. A Sonic Super Rigs 1/0 size hooks. Mustad hooks. I don't know what we're going for. I've got some really heavy leads. I think it's quite a slack tide today. I don't think I need anything too heavy. I'll start off on a 150 because I've got the most of those. And then I'll just hook that on there. If you put some heat through mono, it soon gets all the kinks out. So a 1 up, 1 down rig is basically one hook above the lead and one hook below the lead. So you're fishing one rig on the bottom essentially, and one rig slightly up in the water. Only going to be using small baits on this one. Obviously if I had worms, that would have been absolutely ideal. Some ragworm or some black lug, but I don't. I've got one that I've managed to find. On this rod, I'm going to use the lead that doesn't have the anchor spikes on it, and we'll see if it makes a difference. You know, these rigs are already coming undone. A bit crap. Coming undone. Let's check the hooks. Don't want them breaking off. Yeah, this one's not very good. It's not as well tied up as the other one, as the Sonic ones. This is actually quite a light rig. Like I said, I think this is like a catch anything rig, but there we go. Hard to show you the rigs on the GoPro, but 1 up, 1 down. But there we go. That's the setup. You basically feeder fishing, but in the sea. and without a feeder. That's the way I'm seeing it. It's the way I'm simplifying it in my head. So I've probably got another 20 or 30 minutes before low tide. Then obviously I think that then is slack water. I don't know, I'm making things up. And then obviously the tide will start coming in and I'll start fishing. I think I'm just going to stick the rods there anyway. I might as well. So I'm going to move them further down. We'll put some mackerel on one, squid on the other. Might as well be fishing, otherwise they're not doing anything, are they? This is what I'm going to be fishing over later, folks. I wonder if anybody ever does this and puts a load of bait out. There's like a, you know, like put a bed of bait out to draw stuff in. I don't know, I suppose the tide would just sweep it away, wouldn't it? I feel like I've got a bit of an affinity with the sea. Maybe I was a sailor or a pirate in a past life. I love it. What a beautiful stretch of coastline this is. I know there are much closer marks to Manchester than this down here on the north coast of Wales, but nothing as beautiful as this, really. Obviously I could have tried Lytham, I could have tried Fleetwood, but obviously they're close to Blackpool. They can get busy, those places, because it's near the cities and the towns, and I like to be out in the countryside for my filming. I like to be away from people. That's why I come fishing, to get away from folk. So interestingly enough, the seabirds are still there and they've always been out on that same point. So I'm going to move my stuff all the way down here and I'm going to start fishing out into that bay there, over the other side of those rocks. There's loads of those little yellow snails everywhere. Right, so I've got some squid tentacles there, so I'm going to put some of those tentacles on the smaller rigs. Now, like I said, I've got some bait elastic, so I can make up some stick baits. No idea what the actual term for them is in a bit. But for now, just to get fishing, I'm going to put some of these on the smaller hooks. And I've got mackerel on the bigger hooks. There we go. So on that smaller hook, I've got some squid tentacles and that worm that I found earlier. And then some more squid tentacles on the other smaller one. And like I said, mackerel on the bigger one. I'm going to go all the way out there and have a go at my first cast with these absolutely massive rods. And they are heavy as well, and those reels are heavy. So it's going to take a bit of practice getting used to that, but that's what it's all about. Can't expect to be good at something straight away, and if I get ridiculed, well, it is what it is. There's another one of those cool little yellow snails. I'll put down in the bottom now what it is. I'll look it up when I get in. So cool. So bright. Untangle that, make sure I'm not round my tip, and we'll make sure this lead's snapped back into position. And I believe that this can sort of like clip on a bit, sort the bait out a bit. Should have put some elastic on this. So I'm just going to hook this bottom hook underneath this, because what happens is when that hits the water, that'll come up and it'll push off that rig with a bit of luck. Right, first time casting a 13-foot rod, let's do it. Nice little cast there, I'm happy with that. Turn that drag down a touch. That's about where those gulls were as well, so I didn't even give that a good whack either. That was like just a little flick out. That leader actually flew really well out of the rings. I didn't feel any kind of jolt or anything when the leader left, so that means my leader knot's nice and neat. But that went a good distance, I'm happy with that. So this hasn't got anywhere to clip down, so this is just going out. Hopefully it'll be tangle free. Right, Somebody else's fishing line here. Somebody's been on braid, which isn't what I'd be using, but what do I know? So if we follow that back, we might even get a lead. Get all this braid out and I'll take it home with me, folks. But I need to follow that all the way back. Managed to get all that braid out. Oh! Just had a definite bite on the right hand rod. I don't know what kind of footage I'm going to get in the night, folks, but I'll do my best. But I need to be focusing on what the tide's doing and where the water is, because I don't want to get caught short. We're in, folks. What it is. Good bite that. Let's get it in over these rocks. Definitely in. Yeah. Oh, oh no! Oh, I've lost it. Oh, I saw it. It was a doggy. Lost it on that set of rocks there. I'm going to move stuff back a bit. Well, this one's snagged up on something, of course. Need to start moving stuff back down. I'm absolutely gutted. I saw the dogfish like spiraling in and then it got behind a rock. But really good bite, really positive bite. Struck into it, definitely on. It was pulling, and then I got it closer, it got stuck behind a rock, and yeah, I've lost it. So I need to get some. Well, that's not ideal. We've got friends in the harbour. There's 2 seals over there. There's fish obviously come in and the seals are around them. There's one over there. There's one there right next to the rocks. Oh dear. I'll have to be careful that I don't hook one of those. I'm not really sure if I should even be casting in when the seal's around. He's right down there in the surf. That's amazing. But they've come in with this shoal of fish that's obviously in the area. I need to get baited up, get something back out there, away from the seals. I'm in a bit of a fluster, folks. I'm so gutted that I lost that fish. But I'm hoping that that was the first of a few more. That one's alright. That one's not. Yeah, bottom rig's sharp. Top rig's not. Tentacles seem to do the trick, and squid's actually a very visible bait when you think about it. It's white, isn't it? So probably stands out better than the mackerel, although mackerel is probably more smelly. I need to try better to get the rig up and out next time. Right, so both rods are back out. I'm hoping that wasn't my only chance. I don't think it will be, because I've had 2 definite bites on the squid and on the mackerel. But I think I'm going to bind the bait on better next time with the mackerel and the squid. Definite bite on the left hand rod. The tide's coming in now, so I'm going to move these back shortly. Let's try and get a different angle on it, folks. Snagged on this one now. So I've just lost all of my right hand rig, annoyingly, so I'm going to have to tie a new leader on. Well, it was at this point in the evening that I quickly realised I was out of my depth fishing on a rocky mark like this, and I quickly understood why people fish on sandy beaches. It is so much easier. Trying to move all your stuff back over all the rocks whilst trying to keep the rod tips high and out of snags was so difficult. What I also understood is I didn't have some of the right components to make fishing over these snags a lot easier. I should have had a system in place where I could drop my leads. They call it a rotten bottom system, where you can tie a section of lighter mono, much like you would in the coarse fishing world, that'd break first on a kind of like a little clip swivel. And that's really what I should have been using when fishing around so many rocks. But folks, you live and you learn, and this evening was a massive learning curve for me. Well, as usual, this evening's session is definitely not going to plan. I have lost 2 leads, 2 sets of leaders and 2 rigs so far. The fish are definitely out there. I'm getting bites. I can't believe that I lost that first fish. To be honest with you, if I'd landed that first fish, I probably would have given up and called it here. It's so difficult. The terrain is so difficult, but the fish are obviously here. So far, it's been a struggle. I'm going to have to try my best to fish onto this sandy banking here that we saw before, but obviously the tide's not in quite far enough for me to fish on that. There's a bit of a clear spot just out, but landing on that it's very, very difficult. I'm very, very close to calling it a day, to be quite honest with you, but I'm here now. I might as well keep going. Yeah, I might lose some leads. If I lose another couple of rigs, folks, I'm going to call it and say that maybe I'm not fishing the right tackle, maybe I'm not knowledgeable enough to fish a mark like this yet, where it's so rocky. But I don't like leaving so much litter in the ocean. I don't like leaving my mono out there. Obviously there's 2 leaders out there attached to leads. I know people will pick them up, I know that people will come beach combing and find them, but you know, it's still not nice putting that kind of stuff in the ocean. But I'll re-rig back up one more time and try and find some clear spots, I think is my plan. But frustrating, really frustrating. A little bit upsetting actually to come all this way and get all the gear and, you know, for this to be happening. I should have expected it. But it's nice watching the seals are hunting out there as well, so that's cool to see. There's obviously fish out there if they're out there, or maybe they're just inquisitive about what I'm doing here, probably thinking, what's he doing out there, the idiot, fishing over all this rock. Pulley rig going out. Well, I've regrouped myself a little bit. I need to be better organised next time I come out. I need to have more rigs, more leads, and some bait made up. I've just moved my rods all the way back. The tide's coming in really fast now. I can see how people can get caught unawares. But I've put the pulley rig on the left-hand side because it's a little bit snaggier on the left. And I've got the smaller double hooks into the bay. However, I've just lost the bottom one on the 1 up, 1 down rig. I've lost my 1 down. So we're 1 down on that. I'm going to tie a new hook onto that, get them both back out. But yeah, a bit of a faff, a learning curve. I am definitely going to be coming back to this mark. I'm not going to let it beat me, but what I would do is fish it in a completely different way. For a start, I would fish it as the tide's going out. I know what it looks like at low tide now, so I can cast accordingly. I would use smaller hooks, and also I would use a slightly lighter hook length material. I would probably tie up my own rigs for this one. That's definitely what I would do, and I would use a system where I can drop the leads. However, I think a lot of the problem this evening was my hooks catching on rocks. It weren't even the leads catching, folks. So you tell me in the comments, how would you approach a mark like this, or would you just not bother? So next time we'll get out on an estuary, or we'll get out on a sandy beach, and I'll work my way back up in knowledge to come back to a mark like this and give it a go. Because I'm telling you now, this mark is jam-packed with fish. Well folks, what can I say about this evening's session? I don't think I could have picked a tougher spot for my first beach fishing session. It has been a massive struggle, and I'm starting to lose my voice. This evening has been a massive learning curve for me. I'm glad I come out and did it, but yeah, very demoralising. I'm so gutted that I lost that first fish, but I'm going to get packed up now. I'm going to head back, and I'm going to try somewhere a little bit easier next time, maybe an estuary or a sandy beach. But this rocky terrain has absolutely kicked my ass today. I've lost rigs, I've lost leads, lost an absolute fortune this evening, so I'm gonna have to buy some more gear and come out, and we'll try again somewhere else that's maybe a little bit less tricky. I just want to say thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next Westies Angling. I'm sorry it's been a bit of a failure, but like I said, learning curve for me. I'll see you next time, folks.